Hey everybody, it's me, Edward Jones, back with a new video, Guns and the Negro. Now, if you don't like that title, it is what it is. I couldn't come up with a better one. Rather, the one I wanted to come up with has already been made a title, which practically talks about the same thing, and it's Negroes with Guns. And that was written by um, the late Robert F. Williams. He was a civil rights activist, so I mentioned in previous videos. He was one that promoted self-defense amongst Black Americans. He believed that was something that should be taken advantage of because of the violence that they faced in the South. Now, as you all know, I'm a gun owner. Duh. And I didn't become a gun owner easily. Now, it's not that I was adverse to firearms, which I never was. It was always, for me, it was a mystery. I knew I liked them. I remember, growing up, I watched a lot of action films. One of my favorite films um, was Terminator 2, and I always liked the that Winchester 1901. That it was a 10 gauge lever action shotgun that was used in the film. I always thought it was pretty cool and the way it worked. I remember watching westerns. Um, my favorite show on the History Channel at one point. Well, my favorite shows, because it was a series. It was uh, I think it was the West. It was a Wild West Tech and Modern Marvels Tales of the Gun. Those are my two favorite series on the History Channel growing up, because there was a lot of explanation as to how firearms work. Now, like I said, I didn't become a gun owner overnight. It was something that, or I didn't become someone. I didn't become a gun nut overnight. It was something that was something that progressed over as time has gone by. And the funny thing is that when I was real young, I wasn't really encouraged by members of my family. I have about two or three. My sister, my uncle, and another uncle of mine. My grandmother's brother-in-law. He collected guns and cars, and so I had very few. Um, I guess I had very few support. I had very little support when it came to that type of interest. So when I moved to South Carolina, when I was 12, I figured I'm in the South. I'm going to be immersed in firearms. That wasn't really the case, at least around the area I was in. Um, so when I was 15, I went on my first hunting trip with my pastor. Shot my first gun. It was a break open single barrel 20 gauge. Didn't hit anything. He liked to say that we killed the snake, but really he killed the snake with the shotgun. Um, but it was a great experience, and I figured from that point on I would educate myself, and so I started reading a lot. I remember the first place I wanted to work. It was a sub restaurant. There was a magazine in the waiting, in the one the mag, one in this area where customers could look at magazines while they eat their lunch, their food rather. And it was a sportsman's magazine. I think it was Field and Stream, and on the back there was an advertisement for Mossberg. And, there was advertising the Mossberg 500, the standard Persuader model, which is blued, and the Mariner, which is a I think it's like a nickel plated corrosion resistant finish. And no, it's stainless steel. It's a stainless steel finish. It's nickel as that's rust resistant. And it was it was cool. And I figured that was my first. I want that to be my first gun. And also at the time I played a lot of video games that had guns. Grand Theft Auto, Max Payne, which is a big favorite of mine, and some zombie games. And later, I turned 19. I bought my first gun. As I show one of my early videos, the Mossberg 500. I still have that gun. It was in my video. I got wood. um, but before I bought the gun, I did a lot of research. I read up on break open shotguns, pump actions, autoloaders. Uh, I read up on different types of shotguns that was used in the war, what type of ammunition they use. But I went through all that to get to where I am right now, where I have videos where I show me taking apart an 1897 Winchester. You know, I guess you never think that you see a young black gentleman like myself uh, showing making a video about that or talking about that kind of stuff. Giving tutorials on how to take apart a 100-plus-year-old firearm. And it's kind of interesting when you look at the trend that a lot of young black individuals make. It seems to be the complete opposite. Now I know there are videos like Colion Leon Noir. I hope I said it right. um, and he's a young individual. He's a young black male, and he has a lot of firearms on his channel. He does a lot of reviews. There's Demcad. He's done shooting videos, and you also see videos uh, by Doug Bass. He's much older gentleman, as well as General S. Lee. And it's just kind of strange. You see um, blacks, especially black men, showcasing firearms in a positive light. The thing is, they're out there. The thought that I have as to why you don't really see it, or there's like this negative connotation about blacks having guns, is because it's actually something that goes back to Reconstruction. In fact, the first gun laws, I believe, it was either created in Tennessee or Kentucky. Please don't quote me on that. I advise you to check this stuff out yourself. But the first gun law was um, that if you wanted to own a handgun, you had to own, I think it was a Colt Navy revolver, 44 caliber cap and ball pistol. The thing was, that was more so a law against the poor. I mean, it was a law meant for newly freed blacks. Because now there were blacks that were freed before Reconstruction, before even the Civil War. Um, and I'm pretty sure they had guns too. But this was to have a control over the poor, over poor whites and newly freed blacks who were who start off poor, and it was to try to gain this control over them by making it by law they could only own this pistol, but it was very expensive. So of course it would affect those who didn't have a lot of money at the time. There are also stories about the Klan. They would go to blacks' house. They would ride around going to blacks' houses. And they found a gun inside your house. You were whipped. You were beaten, and this was done. And they beat the men. It would beat the men because if you beat the men, if you demoralize the men, um, it can have an adverse effect on the rest of the culture, and the family structure would break down as a result of that. So a lot of gun control laws and a lot of those motives were done to intimidate blacks, and I believe that kind of stuff has continued on for so long. It's probably so when you had a lot of blacks move out of the South into inner cities. Um, there was this thought that if we had guns, we don't want the cops finding out about them, because if they were to find out, then it's weird. It's a weird it was a weird thing. If the cops find out, then we'll probably get in trouble. So we gotta keep these on the low or not have them all together. I think it also, and another thought I have is that with the black family falling apart, with black males not in the house, taking care of their wives or the mothers and children, you had a lot of black mothers, a lot of black women who relied more so on the state for protection. And the state would of course use firearms, and so they relied on the state. And I'm guessing there was this idea that, well, since the state has the guns, I don't need this. And I suppose it's like once they start having sons, they kind of pass the same mentality on, to where it became a mystery to a lot of young black men. Um, they didn't have a father there to teach them how to stand up, how to use these tools appropriately. And so they were left. It was left basically. It was basically it became wild cards. It didn't know where it was going to fall. So they had the option of gaining access to a firearm and learning how to use it, or they gained it, but they didn't really know what it really was about. And so They want to more so misusing it, um, because there was no because there was no discipline involved, and no instruction. And that's probably also what adds to this stigma of seeing um, blacks with firearms, because I guess it brings about this. And I don't think it's any. I'm not. I can't really say for certain that it's anything. Uh, what's the phrase I want to say? I don't know if you can say it's. I don't know if I can say it's motivated by race, because some people are just like that. A lot of people are just just afraid of firearms. And I'm gonna talk about that in another video. Um, I'll talk about that subject. But I think it's when this I guess you could say it's a stereotype that goes about that. You see blacks with guns, chances are it'll equal trouble. And I think it's really because not because that's true, not because it's completely true, but because of a trend that has come about over time, where um, the collapse of the black family, the complete dependence on the state, firearms became very foreign. It even became became something that's very adverse to a lot of families, and they became more associated with. I mean, when you add and not just to break down the family, but break low bad economy, more the rise in crime. Seeing blacks with firearms seemed to be more associated with crime and poverty, which is not the case. It's not truly the case. Even nowadays, even though some people may see it that way nowadays, that's not the case. Um, like I just said, I didn't even have any real exposure to firearms until I was about 15, and from there, now I also took a wildlife management course, and I wanted to educate myself because I figured if I would if I wanted to learn more about this, um, if I wanted to be more involved in this, I have to educate myself first. I have to work on my software before I can you know work on the hardware. And so I think that's turning around. I believe. I mean, I remember seeing a website called it was called Black Man with a Gun, and it talked. It was a blog by a black gentleman, and he talks about I guess race relations, and um, to try to push for more firearm education within the black families. Um, and I talk to some people myself. When I like to discuss the topic of firearms. It's like it's kind of strange. Because I mean, I remember once I was approached. I was in Sportsman's Warehouse, and I was approached by an older black gentleman, and he said, I'm surprised to see you here, but I'm also he said something to the effect of, I'm surprised to see you here, but I'm also happy because you're probably the only black person I ever seen looking at reloading equipment, and he said there was something that should be encouraged. Um, Amongst black men, especially young black men, they should want to learn more. They should be taught more about how firearms work, about how they operate and how they should be used. Because if you educate them and if you also incorporate the discipline, they can turn the tide on this this I guess, stereotype that you see a black man with a gun. It's primarily black men. You see a black man with a gun that's gonna link is something bad's about to happen, which is of course not. This is ridiculous. Um, but it was something. It was been a topic of it's been something I've been thinking about. I actually got the idea from 803 Salad Shooter. I'm pretty sure you're gonna watch this video sooner or later. So just giving a shout out to him. This was a topic that he gave me and that he wanted me to discuss, and so here I am. I just discussed it. But I like to see what your comments are. What are your thoughts? Uh, especially from black gentlemen, or just black individuals altogether, and even just anyone who has input on this topic. Have you experienced the same thing growing up within your families, or have you seen families that were adverse to firearms? Did you see in certain areas there were black families that welcome the knowledge of firearm ownership and just the skills, whether it be competitive shooting or marksmanship or just the hobby of hunting and things like that. I'd be happy to see, or even make a video response. I'd be happy to watch it. Um, so please feel free to leave a comment, like, subscribe, rate, do whatever it is you do when you watch these videos. Um, if you have any gripes, complaints, send me a PM. Just please be respectable to everyone else who's watching this video. But that's my video. Guns and the Negro. I'm Edward Jones, and thanks for watching.